Right, hello. I am here with the lovely Shona Macpherson, and today we're going to talk about how some thoughts and feelings that you have can actually stop you from taking good care of your body. So, I'm Lisa from Optimum Health. If you follow my channel, you know broadly what my subject matter is, but I'm going to hand over to Shona for her to introduce herself and the wonderful work that she does with ladies. So, over to you, Shona.
Yeah, hi. Really great to be here. Yeah, I work as a life coach. Got a background in counselling before that and also in personal training, like Lisa. And I am absolutely passionate about helping people find freedom from limiting thoughts, freedom in their bodies. And I often do that through one-to-one coaching sessions. And also I run events. Like I have a retreat for women in October in the Highlands of Scotland, and I do treks as well. So yeah, lots of bits and bobs like that.
Lots of bits and bobs, and we'll talk more about the checks, I think, in a little while as well, because I think they're just a wonderful opportunity again for women to be able to explore their thoughts and the confidence around them. But the specific topic we're going to talk about today is around pelvic floor issues, one of those taboo subjects that ladies just like to brush under the carpet for a number of reasons that we'll talk about shortly. But some statistics, just overall statistics, is that 1 in 3 women will encounter incontinence at some point in their life. So it's not just about those few weeks after you've had a baby, but also that on average, it takes a woman over 6 years to actually seek help for those pelvic floor issues, which may present as low back pain, as heaviness in the pelvis, as incontinence, or any other number of things. And that's a really long time. A lot can happen in 6 years, and for some it may even be much longer than that, because the 6 years is an average figure. So in watching a lot of Shona's wonderful work and a particular model that she used, it's made me think about the emotions that women probably encounter when they notice something going on differently downstairs, and whether this helps them to move towards help or makes them shy away from it. And I think one of the key things that comes across in my work with women is this feeling of embarrassment. But before we go into that, Shona, do you want to talk a little bit about the model that you kind of use to explain all of this? Because I think it breaks it down beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite visual, so I've I've got it here as well.
Brilliant.
A model quite commonly used in cognitive behavioural therapy, and it starts off with circumstances. So circumstances would be anything that's out of our control. It could be other people, events, that kind of thing. And the idea is that circumstances are the thing that influence our thoughts. So thoughts are basically just sentences in our head, words that are sentences in our head, the story we tell ourselves about something. Circumstances are neutral, thoughts are how we've interpreted them in our mind. And then feelings or emotions generally come from thoughts. Occasionally things like it's our period, or might just feel rubbish for other reasons, but probably like 98% of the time our feelings and emotions come from thoughts. And then feelings and emotions come from thoughts, and then our feelings and emotions generally are the thing that will drive the kind of action that we'll take, and then the actions that we take end up in results. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so in that model as well, that action could be inaction, couldn't it?
Absolutely, yes, yes, absolutely. By action, it's just meaning what's happening as a consequence of these things. So it could be you do nothing, the status quo stays the same, or that you comfort eat, or that or you seek support or help. But it's so many options. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's lovely to see it in a ladder like that, because when something happens to us, it just happens. And we either get swept along in the emotions, or we bury those emotions under a carpet somewhere. And then things just happen as a result or consequence of that, without us necessarily putting things together. So this chat with you is a wonderful opportunity for people to be able to create that little bit of space around their thoughts and see how that's affecting them. Does that sound about right to you, Shona?
Totally. I feel like experiencing life and these kind of things, it can just be like this fog or this soup, and it's just all, there's nothing I can do, it's yuck. But I think that for me, it's so helpful to be able to, okay, what's not in my control? It's not my fault or anything like that. What is a story I'm telling about this? What am I making this mean? And I think that is what changes everything, when we can get that insight into that, and then we can have that space to go, actually, there's another story I could tell here. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think there are different words, Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So if we start with the fact, because I think something that's very common with any kind of pelvic floor issue, because it's in a very personal part of our bodies, a very intimate part that, you know, we're always told to protect and keep safe. So when something happens in this region of our body, it does provoke a lot of emotions. But I think one thing in particular, when it comes to something like leakage, or even prolapse, is ladies feel embarrassed. So how would we apply that to your model, Shona?
Yeah. So yeah, by that model, if we're looking, should we make this about one specific imaginary person? Would that
Yeah,
be
that'd be really great idea. Yeah.
yeah? So let's say this lady is Sally, and Sally has what you've just described there. Then, so she's got this leakage in her bladder. Is that right?
Yep, that sounds great. Yeah, so she's feeling something different down there. She's noticed a few leaks here and there, maybe when she coughs or laughs or sneezes, and it's she's noticing it creeping in when she's trying to do any kind of activity as well.
Okay, great. And then Lisa, if you could be Sally,
I'll be Sally.
so in this version, this version of reality, and with you being Sally, you've those are circumstances. So that's already happening. It's not within your control, right, in terms of what's just happened. So now, what thought, as this fictional character, what thought are you having right now?
So the thought is embarrassment, that it's something that happens to old ladies. It shouldn't be happening to me. And I can't possibly tell anybody about it because they'll think that I can't control my own body.
Yes, yes. And when the first thing you said there, Lisa, you said the thought is embarrassment. And just, sorry to be so nitpicky, but by this model, the embarrassment would be the feeling that comes from all the other things that you've just said. So the thoughts were, this is something that happens to old ladies. Did I hear you right? This can't possibly happen to me.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's really interesting, isn't it? How we naturally merge the thoughts and feelings into one when we try and express it.
Yes, because we can't actually think embarrassment, can we? It's in the same way we. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's a feeling. But the things that got you to the embarrassment there, the two that stuck in my head the most. I'm not listening so well because I'm on camera and it's harder. But this is something that happens to old ladies, and this can't possibly happen to me. Was there anything else that you said there before you went to the feeling?
I think they were the main thoughts, actually, breaking it down. Yeah, yeah.
So if we take this further, if you're thinking this happens to older ladies, this can't possibly happen to me, as well as embarrassment, is there anything else that you might be feeling if you've got this story in your head? Potentially, if this can't happen to me, and this happens to old ladies, you're potentially saying I'm an old lady. Would that be true?
Yeah. And like feeling like old before your time, that you have to give up the activities that you associate with being lively, perhaps, or feeling vibrant because your body's showing signs of being older.
Yeah. So the thoughts there that I'm hearing are, I might have to give up some of these things that I'm doing, like jumping jumping on a trampoline or whatever it is. So that would be a thought. And then the feeling you said there would be the opposite of being vibrant. So possibly the feeling would be feeling constricted, um, feeling older somehow, maybe.
Yes, definitely.
And from that, I would suggest maybe we feel possibly less vital, less attractive, less sexy, less feminine. Those feelings could come up as well. I'm probably over-interpreting a little bit, but just
No, I think that's spot on. And I think the less feminine is a key part of it as well. So if we think that these issues, they can happen postnatally, but during the transition towards menopause, this is an area where a change in hormones changes the elasticity of tissues within our pelvic floor. And so it's a prime time, if you like, for this to happen, when lots of other things are happening within your body as well. And it's a time where women can tend to feel overwhelmed and that, you know, they lose their libido a little bit. And so they really do lose that feeling of control, but the feeling of femininity as well. And so that's lovely that you've touched on that, because I think that's a key element of this.
yeah. And then again, just you think I'm married to this model or something, but if we go back there, the things that the information that you've just given there about what is happening with our hormones and the effect that knock-on that has with our libido, that again would be the circumstances that you can't control, unless you're taking something to control it. You can't, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
In the circumstance, but it's the story that we're telling ourselves that means that this, what the circumstances mean that are causing these feelings. So being armed with the facts, I think, actually changes everything. But it's still really about what story we tell ourselves.
Yeah, and that's true as well, because we had a little chat beforehand, and we were saying actually that there's two elements. There's the feelings around this, but there's also that knowledge gap, that there are proactive things that you can do that are beyond squeezing the pelvic floor when you're sat at traffic lights, and beyond just using incontinence pads or something like that. So there is the knowledge gap element as well, which comes into the circumstances. But then going that stage further in your model, having kind of broken down that feeling of being older, having to change your activities, that making you feel embarrassed or ashamed, and then the action from that is, of course, that an action may be that you buy incontinence pads, thinking that that's the solution. But also a very common action is inaction. So stopping doing those activities that you enjoy because you fear they may cause you to leak, and that again causes you embarrassment in a social situation, perhaps. And it's that inaction which I think is really quite dangerous, because again, particularly as a woman ages, the risks of things affecting her bone health, her heart health, really escalate. And so if she is not mobile and active, then that's going to have implications on her long-term health. And that's the danger of inactivity caused by pelvic floor issues. So I guess that leads into the results in your model then as well a little bit, Shona.
Yeah, definitely. If there's an inaction, the results are probably that things will get worse, that will escalate, and that also that Sally isn't living that vibrant life anymore.
Yeah.
But what could be really interesting, Lisa, is the great thing with this model is that we have a different model for each thought. So if it's okay, let's now fast forward. So Sally now has become more aware of some of the facts that you just shared, and she might. The amazing thing with our thoughts is that we have this thing which we call neuroplasticity, which is just a geeky term to mean that we have growth in our brain and we can rewire our brain at any point by thinking different thoughts.
Yeah.
Now imagine Sally's been empowered to understand that the circumstances are kind of beyond her control, but also there are interventions that she can do, and it can be reversed. Can we now play as to where she might be?
So the thought then is, it might start with, there must be something I can do, and that might start by talking to your doctor or looking for a coach such as myself that specialises in pelvic floor dysfunction issues. So again, the thought there is something I can do, and then in hooking up with a coach such as myself, it's, I feel positive that there are things that I can do, or you sort of understand what you can do.
So if she's got some kind of thought like, okay, great, now I know there's help there's coaches like Lisa, there's medical practitioners, she's feeling happier, she's got some sense of hope.
Yes.
From this sense of, we didn't use that emotion before, but I think it was probably implied, that hopelessness, stuckness that she had before, and now there's that hope. And then from that, she's taking action, results might change, and then that again might then be another model then where she's got that advice, she's acting on that advice, so those thoughts again might be then a bit even more, actually I can still do my classes, and I'm still a woman, I'm still functioning, and all of that. So she then, the feelings, I'm going through this quite quickly, but the feelings could be around, I'm feminine, and I don't have to feel like an old woman because I'm not an old woman, and
yeah, absolutely.
Life becomes again back to where she wanted it to be, or even better, in fact.
Absolutely, and it gives back that control, that inner strength as well, I think. And I think the positive thing from looking at the model that way as well is that then the action is not just taking steps to improve your pelvic health, but also understanding that it's not a quick fix. It's not a one-stop shop. You know, the analogy I always use is, would you ever stop brushing your teeth? And people are like, no, why would I do that? And it's exactly the same thing. You know, our body evolves as we move through womanhood. So it needs different types of care at different stages. But underlying that, there is this base level that we can do with pelvic floor health, which is just like brushing our teeth and can take just the same amount of time in the day as well. So I think that's really positive. So I'm interested with your model as well then, Shona, to actually go back to Sally and look from a different perspective. So, because another common thing is that women believe that the commonality of the issue, so the fact that 1 in 3 women are affected by it, we really kind of bring humour to it and everything, that it's normal. So her initial thought is, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And from that, the feeling is, it doesn't matter, I'll just buy incontinence pads or something like that. So I guess, I don't know if the feeling there would be something like denial.
So the thought, you were saying there, the thought is it's really common, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And the feeling, yeah, denial I wouldn't really say is a feeling. I think that's more of a strategy. So I guess, just if I get it in my own head, if I was struggling with this and I felt everybody had it, I think I would, and there was nothing that could be really done about it, and it's just suck it up.
Yeah.
I would feel, trying to get the word for it, just I would give up. There would be that feeling of
almost disempowered.
Yes, no potency to me. I've got no power. Sort of laissez-faire, shrugging my shoulders. Yeah, that's life. Bit passive.
Yeah. And from those, go on, sorry, Shona.
I think also though I would still, because this isn't just a thing, this is something that affects my body and my self-image, I wouldn't be just that. I would also probably be, can I swear? I better not, peed off.
Yes.
Yes, maybe not the best metaphor to use, but I wouldn't be happy at all. And
no,
I feel a little bit smaller in terms of my confidence, my agency, my power, those sort of things.
And it's interesting you use the word confidence there, because I do think that it robs women of their confidence, because there's that little, you know, they've got that knowledge inside that things aren't quite right, but they feel like they've covered them up sufficiently to be able to face the external world. But like you say, it's just robbed their confidence that little bit. And so I guess the action following in your model from that could be that they carry on as normal, but using an incontinence pad or something like that. But in so doing and taking that action, they're allowing the issue to grow. So we know that these issues do not rectify themselves, and that if we continue with activities that are putting pressure into our pelvic floor, then the incontinence can become more frequent, but also it may lead on to issues such as a prolapse. And again, left for too long, your only route there becomes surgery. Whereas if we can take a positive action early on, not only can we usually avoid surgery, but we can restore that confidence to feel like the woman that all of us really want to be. And it's not saying that we all want to be one woman, but the woman that we individually all want to be. And does that kind of marry up with your model there, Shona?
Yes, very much, absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think, so touching on some other aspects now as well, because I think what we've delved into beautifully in this is just how one single thought can have such an impact on our overall life. And we, even before this conversation, having watched a lot of your work, I tend to assume that things start with a feeling. but actually realizing it starts with a thought that triggers a feeling just gives us that little bit of space to think, okay, well, what is it that I'm thinking? And how can I steer those emotions? And is that something that you help women to do through your coaching then, Shona?
Yes, very much. Just trying to help people understand what is the story that they're playing on a loop in their head, or what are the stories, because we all have multiple stories, and our brains are very, very busy a lot of the time.
Yes.
Taking that time to actually step back from being in that soup of our brain to understanding, okay, if things aren't feeling right, if I don't quite feel it in alignment, if my life doesn't feel the way it wants to, let's use those feelings to go back a step in the model to see what are the thoughts that I'm telling myself, and are those thoughts true, or is there something that could be true or truer that would actually serve me better? And I believe we are the authors of our own stories, and that when we can get that space and to see that actually this story is rubbish, or it's really unhelpful. Stories like, for me, my personal story for a long time was I'm not enough. And I actually had this very strong belief. And a belief is just a thought that we have thought enough times that it's really cemented and strong. And but the amazing thing is that, yeah, we can change that. It takes a bit of work, of course, but we are totally rewirable. Yeah. And the other final thing I would say that I think is really useful to think about this model as well is that I don't think it is all thoughts either. I'm passionate about being in touch with our body and our feelings, and using our body compass and all of those things, but also actions. It's very hard to directly change a feeling without working on either our thoughts or our actions. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to think our way into right action, but we can act our way into right thinking, if that makes any sense. So somebody might be watching this and they might think, oh, I just don't think I can ever feel differently about me and this issue. But I know I've got to just do something about it. And then maybe I'll have the belief that actually when things are working. And you could argue that you're still, to act, you still have to use your brain and think a little bit. So I'm not trying to be too pedantic about that, but I think that it's like a concertina. If we can, the thoughts are the easier way in for most of us. But if some of us are really struggling to work on our thoughts, it just feels too abstract and philosophical or whatever, then it could be just about going, it kind of makes sense, but I'm finding it hard to think differently. So I am just going to go and get some professional help on this issue. And then you'll notice that you're beginning to feel a bit different. And then you might get the confidence to go, actually, that story wasn't true.
Yeah, absolutely. That does make sense. So it doesn't have to be a straight line through. You can loop it round. So to find the way that works for you. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? We are all individual. We all see things differently. We all learn differently. And as you said, I love this about being the author of your own story, because we all are masters of making up stories. So finding the route that allows you to create the story that you want to live, that you're happy to live, is the way forward for everyone, really.
The final thing on that as well, Lisa, I would say it's not a linear process. We've obviously made it quite simplified with Sally, and oh, this is my thought and now this is my new thought, but it's a constant. You'll still notice this old thought, oh, this is just me getting old, and then you'll be trying to practice this new thought, but it's a constant. I don't want to say battle, because that sounds like a painful, dangerous thing, but it's a constant work, I would say. The more and more you become aware of those thoughts, the easier it gets.
Yeah, and I think that's very important in our life today, because everything's such quick access, and everybody wants that quick fix, and I'll just do this and then it'll be sorted. But it's finding that acceptance that actually, for as long a life as you want to lead, that's the journey that you've got to go on, and finding a way that you can feel happy in your body, but support your health, your well-being over that whole journey is the way forward, and almost stop wasting time looking for those quick fixes.
Yeah, because they don't work. We know.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, we touched on confidence a little bit. And as I mentioned, particularly I find, so ladies transitioning through menopause, can feel very, very different in their own bodies, and that almost robs them of their confidence. And you do some just amazing treks, don't you, Shona? Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I live in the Highlands of Scotland, so the Cairngorm Mountains. The range are very close to me, and I work with a mountain guide to run women's treks for wellbeing. So we take groups of up to six women out on 2 night, 3 day trek experience. So we're just in the beauty of the hills, and
Lovely.
we are sleeping in our tents, and I'm doing life coaching as we're in that beautiful place. And I'm passionate about women having access to this beautiful landscape and to be unplugged from all the distractions of normal life. So we do mostly the high level people going up mountains, but we also do low level treks. So for people maybe who have fitness or hip or knee issues that would make them hard to climb a mountain, so we're in the low level foothills. Um, they are finishing because they're sort of early summer based activity. So we are nearly finished for this season, but we do have 14th, 16th of September. We've got a couple of places in low level one, and next weekend, so that's really likely to make notice. 1st to the 3rd of September, I think we've got a couple of places in the high level one, and then we'll be doing them again next.
Lovely. So if I share below this video as well, anywhere that people can get access to the information of the coaching that you provide, either sort of direct or through your wonderful treks as well. And of course, if there's anybody watching this that just wants to have a chat about any pelvic floor issues, it may even present just as persistent low back pain, but just want to explore what might be going on for you and understand what's available to support you with those issues, then you can, of course, contact me and I'll put my details in as well. But for now, thank you ever so much for your time this morning, Shona. That's brilliant to go through. And say, even having watched your stuff, it's kind of broadened my my understanding of how to look at things. It's really complex how our brains take things and interpret them, and then how we apply that to our body. But really fascinating, but empowering to know that there are routes that can actually help you to work through these issues, and you don't just have to put a proverbial sticking plaster over it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much. Such a joy to join you, Lisa. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Shona.